Hi, welcome to Nina in the Kitchen. Today we are making a slow roast pork, and I'm calling this recipe slow roast pork because depending on where you are, depends on the cut that this is called. It can be called a Boston butt, it can be called pork shoulder or fresh picnic ham. It's all the same thing. This is 12 pounds. This could feed 15 to 18 people easily. And I don't need all of that. So what I'm going to do is cut some of this away and keep it for another time. Maybe make sausage or grind it for something else or make a stew. There's so many uses for it. The bone runs this way. I'm going to cut a piece of meat away from it and leave the bone in my roast for today. So what I've done is cut a hunk off. I took the skin, took everything, and I wrapped it in heavy-duty foil. I'm putting it into a bag which I've labeled and dated, and this just goes in the freezer. Then we're ready to move on. What I've done is I've lined this pan with heavy-duty foil, and then on top of that I put parchment paper because this can make quite a mess depending on what you add to it or don't. So this is now about 8 pounds, and I'm taking an X-Acto knife because I want to score the skin, and the reason for scoring is just how it will help the fat drip off, but it also makes these cracklings. You can put this in the oven with a little salt and pepper. That's all you need, and it will be delicious. You can season it however you want, but what I'm going to do is I have some fennel that I've braised. That's another video. And what I'm going to do is put it underneath this skin with some spices. So I'm just going to cut the skin back. Pull it back, and there's other ways to do this. You can pierce the meat and pack that with spices. This will give you a nicer broadcasting of flavor rather than poking the skin and just doing little focal pieces of spices. So I'm just peeling this. Later on, if I want to make tacos, I might not want the spices that I have up here, so I can just control it a little better. So here's what I have for ingredients. And again, this is just what I'm doing today. This is more about the technique. I have fennel fronds, only because I had some fennel. I'm going to put that at the bottom like a rack. Here are my fronds, and I've washed these. I have some braised fennel, which I made, and that will go over the top of the pork roast. And then I have these spices. I have salt, black peppercorns, some cardamom, and some fennel seed, which I have toasted. I have a dedicated coffee grinder, and this is what I use to grind. You can use a mortar and pestle. You can just buy ground spices. But all of this is going in because this is going to make a nice salty, spicy blend. It smells good. What I'm going to do is pick this guy up, put some fennel under him, and then I also have bay leaves. Bay leaves are a great flavor with pork. So is citrus, lemons, oranges. Rosemary is excellent. Rosemary and onion, or rosemary and garlic. I'm just taking this fennel, I'm going to spread it all through here. And then I'm going to take my spices and put that in here as well. Cover it up. And then spread the spices all over this meat. Now I'm just going to tie this up, and this is ready for the oven. How long your roast will cook depends on the size of meat, depends on the temperature that it is when it goes in the oven. So this was in the fridge. I took it out about 2.5 hours ago and let it come down to room temp, and it's still a little chilly. So what I'm going to tell you is it takes about an hour and 20 minutes or so, an hour and a half per pound. And you'll know when it's done when you just take a piece of meat with a fork or your fingers and just pull on it, and it will just melt away like butter. It's just such a delicious meal. Well, now it's later in the day. This has roasted for 5.5 hours, and then I let it sit for a half hour under a towel and some foil. So it's rested. And this is the roast. It's nice and crispy skin. And it smells so good. But one thing I wanted to mention while I'm thinking of it is that there's fat at the bottom of this. If you remember, I had fennel fronds underneath. This is why you want to line your pan. All this black stuff is just drippings and it's juices that have burnt, but you don't want to have to clean that. I wanted to show you this golden oil that comes off of the roast. It's rich in flavors because of the spices. So whatever spices you had on your pork will end up in this fat. It's delicious to use in sauteed vegetables or the beginning of a stew, where you put this in your pot and then start with aromatics. Don't throw that away. And this will go into a container that's dedicated to it in the fridge, and it lasts for quite a while. So let me show you what this roast is like. I'm just going to take some of this fat away, some of this skin, and this, look at this. It just tears away, it peels. It's incredibly juicy and moist and tender. And what a lovely dinner that is. And then seasoned with the fennel that we did and everything. My mouth is watering just talking about it, but also the aromas here. This is, I just have to take a taste. I wasn't going to, but it's just staring at me, you know? Like I said, this recipe is so easy. You park it in the oven, you walk away, go play a snappy game of tennis, and you come back 5 hours later, go see a movie, whatever you want to do. If this is done, you can do it overnight. It's delicious, it feeds a crowd, it's inexpensive. I hope you try it. Thank you so much, guys. Please subscribe. Bye.